Hello, welcome back to the reading of the poem of the Man God, written by Maria Valtorta, Volume 3, Chapter 337, Part 3, Going Towards Saphet, the Parable of the Good Farmer. Listen to this parable, says Jesus. It could be called the Parable of the Good Farmer. A rich man owned a beautiful large vineyard in which there were various kinds of fig trees. The vineyard was cultivated by a servant, an expert vine dresser and pruner of fruit trees, who did his work with love for his master and for the trees. Every year, at the right season, the rich man used to go to his vineyard several times to see his grapes and figs ripen and to taste them, picking the fruit with his own hands. One day he went towards a fig tree of very good quality, the only one of that quality in the vineyard. But also on that day, as in the previous 2 years, he found that it was all leaves without any fruit. So he called the vine dresser and said, "For 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and I have found nothing but leaves. It is obvious that the tree has finished yielding fruit, so cut it down. It is useless to have it here taking up room and wasting your time without any profit. Cut it down and burn it. Clean the ground of its roots and put another young tree in its place. In a few years' time it will yield fruit." The vine dresser, who was patient and loving, replied, "You are right, but leave it to me for another year. I will not cut it down. Nay, I will dig the ground with greater care. I will manure it and trim it. It may yield fruit again. If after this last trial it does not bear fruit, I will comply with your desire and cut it down." Chorazin is the tree that does not bear fruit. I am the good farmer. You are the impatient rich man. Leave it to the good farmer. Very well, but the parable is not finished. Did the fig tree bear fruit the following year? Asks the zealot. It did not, and it was cut down. But the farmer was justified for cutting down a tree which looked young and flourishing, because he had done all his duty. I also wish to be justified for cutting off some people with an axe and removing them from my vineyard, in which they are unfruitful and poisonous plants, nests of snakes, sapsuckers, parasites, or poisons that spoil or injure their fellow disciples, or they penetrate creeping with their wicked roots to proliferate without being called into my vineyard, where they rebel to being grafted, as they entered only to spy, to denigrate, and to make my field sterile. I will cut them off after trying everything to convert them. For the time being, instead of an axe, I make use of shears and of the pruner's knife, and I thin out branches and engraft. Oh, it will be hard work, both for me who does it and for those who undergo the treatment. But it is to be done, so that in heaven they may say, "He has accomplished everything." But the more he pruned, grafted, hoed, and manured them, shedding perspiration, tears, and blood while working, the more sterile and wicked they have become. There is the village. Go ahead, all of you, and look for lodgings. You, Judas of Kerioth, stay with me. They remain alone, and in the twilight they proceed close to each other in dead silence. At last, Jesus says, as if he were speaking to himself, "And yet, even if we lose God's favor by infringing his law, we can always become what we were by renouncing sin." Judas does not reply. Jesus resumes, "And if one understands that it is not possible to have the power of God, because God is not there where Satan is, one can easily remedy by preferring what God grants to what our pride desires." Judas is silent. They have by now reached the first house of the village, and Jesus, still speaking to himself, says, "And to think that I did severe penance that he might mend his ways and go back to his father. Judas starts, raises his head, looks at him, but does not say anything. Jesus also looks at him, and then he asks, Judas, to whom am I speaking? To me, Master. It is because of you that I no longer have power. You took it off me to increase it in John, Simon, James, in everybody except me. You do not love me, that's what it is. And I will end up by not loving you and by cursing the hour when I did love you, and I ruined myself in the eyes of the world for a cowardly king who was overwhelmed even by the populace. I was not expecting this from you. Neither I from you. But I have never deceived you, and I have never forced you. So why do you remain with me? Because I love you. I cannot part with you. You attract me, and you disgust me. I desire you as much as I desire air to breathe, and you frighten me. Ah, I am cursed, I am damned. Why do you not drive the demons out of me since you can? Judas's face is livid and upset. He looks like a madman, full of hatred and fear. He reminds me, although faintly, of the satanic mask of Judas on Good Friday. And Jesus' face reminds me of the scourged Nazarene, who, sitting on an upturned tub in the courtyard of the Praetorium, looks at his sneerers with all his loving pity. He says, and a sob already appears to be in his voice, because there is no repentance in you, but only hatred against God, as if he were guilty of your sin. Judas utters a horrible curse between his teeth. Master, we have found lodgings. There is room for 5 in one place, for 3 in another, for 2 in a third place, and then 2 places can accommodate 1 each. We could not find anything better, says the disciples. All right, I will go with Judas of Iscariot, says Jesus. No, I prefer to be alone. I am upset. You would not be able to rest. As you wish. I will go with Bartholomew. You can do as you like. In the meantime, let us go where there is more room, so that we may all have supper together. This has been a reading from the Poem of the Man God, written by Maria Valtorta, Volume 3, Chapter 337, Part 3, Going Towards Saphet, the Parable of the Good Farmer. Thank you for listening. I will see you tomorrow. May God bless you, and may peace be with you.